Stepping out of the car, General Marcus Avery remained composed and calm while his hands remained on the steering wheel. The red and blue lights behind him painted the dashboard in flickering anxiety. He was wearing a uniform and his name tag, Reed Avery. But Officer Rick Talbert didn't care, because all he saw was a black man driving a luxury car through a wealthy neighborhood, with his hand hovering over his holster as he gave commands. Marcus attempted to answer, but the officer interrupted him, yelling accusations and demanding that he be dragged from the car, slapped onto the hood, and shackled like a criminal without asking any questions or providing an explanation. When he tried to show Marcus the military ID or the stars on his shoulder, he heard the neighbors whispering, and a jogger stopped in the middle of his stride to film. Somewhere in the confusion, a toddler asked her mother why a soldier was being arrested, and yet, despite the fact that General Marcus Avery was a decorated U.S. Army general with over 30 years of service, a West Point graduate, and the current director of counterterrorism operations for the Pentagon, a racist police officer still assumed responsibility for the crime. Officer Talbert muttered under his breath that he was just another thug in a stolen car. When he noticed that Marcus had black skin, he didn't protest or fight. Instead, he just asked if he could call his parole officer. Talbert laughed and said, "Sure, call your parole officer." Marcus then dialed a number that only a few people in the nation could access, and when the voice on the other end said, "Yes, General," Marcus said, "I've been detained," and everything changed in a matter of minutes. The cuffs were removed. Right away, as two unmarked black SUVs drew up and two guys in suits got out. One of them flashed a Department of Defense badge, while the other leaned very close to Talbert and said something that made his face white. "Sir, I didn't know," Talbert Marcus stutteringly said. "No, you didn't care to know." As they drove away, the Pentagon police accompanied Marcus to his vehicle. With the whole country waiting to hear what transpired, Talbert stood motionless as he watched the man he had just humiliated drive away unscathed. The entire arrest, the officer's violence, and the general's restraint were captured on camera. As soon as federal officials arrived, hashtags went viral, and the general was arrested. Before your judgment, you make a call to the Pentagon. By morning, millions of people had watched the footage. Politicians, celebrities, veterans, and news anchors. People were shocked not only by the disrespect, but also by how easily a black man's entire identity was erased by one assumption. Avery later told his story on national television, not to ruin Talbert's life, but to highlight the system's corruption. "I've led battalions into war zones," he said, "but the most dangerous place I've ever stood was on an American sidewalk with my hands raised." Marcus also talked about other times when he was followed in stores and at meetings where people thought he reminders that some people's skin tone will always be more noticeable than their qualifications. The city formally apologized, but the harm had already been done after Officer Talbert was suspended, sacked, and charged with misbehavior and false arrest. But instead of turning suffering into a goal, Marcus started a nationwide campaign to change traffic stop practices and racial bias training in law enforcement. He spoke with cadets, told his story, and pushed for change with facts, grace, and grace. Unwavering poise. He didn't want retribution. He wanted reform, and people listened. Departments all over the nation started putting new procedures into place. Bias was no longer disregarded once veteran cops received retraining. It was challenged because something is profoundly damaged when a U.S. Army general in full uniform is mistaken for a criminal. And something strong starts to mend when that general chooses to act with humility rather than rage. Marcus Avery reminded everyone that genuine strength isn't about shouting loudly, but rather about moving people deeply by remaining strong in the face of adversity. Your knees. If you were moved by this story, please hit the like button subscribe to the channel, and leave a comma in the comments section below.